Please help us. We are dying. We are without food, water, or shelter, or any electricity. We need your aid.
Understood. We're gonna send $8 billion worth of aid.
Oh, thank you.
To Ukraine. Let's do that right away, ASAP. Come on.
What? No, a hurricane has completely ravaged the people that you represent. Give us that money.
Oh, don't worry. We're gonna give you money. Every single one of you is getting $750 each.
You sent $8 billion to Ukraine. You're gonna give us $750? You know what? Okay, we'll take it. How do we get it?
Easy. You just go online and apply, and if you pass the application, we'll wire the money right over.
Okay, let me get this straight. You want us, people that are trapped in a town with no water, food, resources to spend $750 on, to go online when we have no electricity, so we don't have any Wi-Fi, to get the $750?
I'm black, just like one of you.
What does that have to do? President Biden, please do something. We used to be respectable.
My broader question to you, I think, is about this misinformation. Do you think this is a time to put falsehoods aside, like the idea that FEMA funds are being redirected to migrants, which is just not true?
Well, it is true that FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security have been spending billions of dollars on migrants. Now, I understand some people say they're separate funds, but we just passed a short-term spending bill. It's very common for the administration to come and ask for permission to move money between funds, especially to prepare for emergencies. And second, I would note that this administration seems to have no problem finding money when they want to spend it on their priorities. When they need hundreds of billions of dollars to pay off student loans for graduate students in gender studies programs, they somehow find it. When it's trying to get helicopters to deliver food and water and cellular service and life-saving medicine into these mountain valleys, they somehow can't seem to find the money.
Through Hurricane Katrina in the Bush White House, and as I know you lived through it, Anderson, covering it, and I don't recall any restraint by Democrats or the national media coming after George W. Bush and FEMA and every other thing, and it was immediately politicized. And, you know, I well remember it. It's seared into my brain. And so now all these people are out here saying, we can't politicize this. We can't criticize this. Nothing can be said about Biden and Harris here or FEMA or anything else. And I just think, well, if a Republican were in the White House and the Republican president were at the beach and the vice president were raising money with celebrities, I guarantee you somebody would be mad about it.
The Democrats are back at it again, trying to call this whole stuff about FEMA misinformation, right? It can't be you have a different interpretation. Hey, you're asserting something differently than what they are trying to assert. The fact of the matter is that FEMA funds was used to support migrants at one time than the other. And it's been shown, everyone document this, like Donald Trump documented it. Hey, 2023, 2022, they used $600 million for illegal migrants to do that. They spent $20 million of FEMA money to create a welcoming center in San Diego. Like, I don't understand how you can characterize that as false, but the media's doing it anyway. They're doing all this stuff. What to do it? As you saw from the intro, Scott Jennings highlighted perfectly what exactly is going on here. They're politicizing this. When it's a Republican, if a Republican was doing all this, they would be saying the exact same things that conservatives are saying about the FEMA money now. And it's just a stark contrast to how the Democrats cover stuff. And you're going to see how Tom Collins just finished cooking Kristen Welker. It's because the idea that she keeps trying to frame it in such a positive light for Democrats. Oh, we shouldn't be politicizing this. It always seems like, yo, you hold Republicans to a higher standard than you hold Democrats. And before I go into this clip, I want to show you a clip of Karine Jean-Pierre in 2022, of how she was bragging that the Biden administration, was using the FEMA fund to help migrants. Let's take a look.
It's just categorically false. No, Biden did not take FEMA relief money to use on migrants. So FEMA regional administrators have been meeting with city officials on site to coordinate available federal support from FEMA and other federal agencies. Funding is also available through FEMA's emergency food and shelter program to eligible local governments and non-for-profit organizations upon request to support humanitarian relief for migrants.
If you want to be very informed in politics, all you really require is very simple. You just have to have a long memory. Hey, you did something that contradicted what you said 2022, and now in 2024 you're saying that you never used the FEMA funds. Okay, then how the money ran out? We were supposed to have billions of dollars in FEMA. If FEMA was never used, if the money and funds was never used, then what happened to the funds that was appropriated to handle responses like this? And they always want to run, they always want special treatment. You ever notice that with Democrats? They want to hold Republicans to a certain standard, but they don't want to abide by the same standard they hold Republicans to. And then when Republicans point out double standards, as you saw, I mentioned this before in prior videos with the Doug Emhoff stuff. If Trump, anyone associated with Trump had allegations about hitting their ex-wife or ex-girlfriend or whatever the hell the lady was, it would have been all over social media. It would have been all over the news because this highlights the bias of the mainstream media. And I wish Kristen Welker, whatever her name is, stop pretending to be a journalist. This is propaganda stuff. Just admit, hey, I'm a political hack. Hey, I'm trying to make the Democrats look good here. Why aren't the Democrats good on this issue, Tom Cotton? People will have more respect for Kristen Welker if she did just that. But no. You want to stand on this fake neutrality when your actions scream political partisan. But I digress.
The press, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me on, Kristen.
Let's start off by talking about Hurricane Helene. We know that former President Trump has made, quite frankly, a series of baseless claims, including that the Biden administration is intentionally withholding aid from areas where Republicans live, also saying that FEMA funds are being redirected to migrants. Both those claims have been debunked. They're false. Here's what Deanne Criswell, the FEMA...
First, she said unsubstantiated claims. Then she said it's false. This is the reality of fact-checking nowadays in this day and age. That if something's uninstantiated, it's immediately assumed false, especially if it's something that goes against a Democrat narrative. Make it make sense, guys. So I have to prove that my claims is not baseless, but you don't have to prove any credibility about your claims. Climate change is such a threat. What claims do you have of that? So put out some model statistics. And these models have a high discrepancy point to the point where they're unreliable. How you know for sure this is actually the case? Oh, I don't know. Trust me. But if I say climate change is a baseless, uninstantiated claim, they'll get mad in the comment section about how you're a science denier. But then we show evidence of something that even suggests that the funds were being misused or used for other reasons. Oh, no, those are baseless claims. Only someone who only watched your network can believe that. But if this is why I said, people, you have to have a balance. Just like you have a balanced diet, you have to have a balanced media diet as well. You have to have your right-wing sources, your left-wing sources, and then the centrist sources, you pick how you want. For the most part, you cannot be a person that only watch CNN and then sit here and debate me in my comment section talking about I'm lying about these things or I'm misframing these things or I'm biased. Like, oh, CNN's not biased? Look at the political makeup of CNN and see if it's not biased. But you want to criticize me, a guy in his in his office room, in his house, just giving you his perspective and where he's getting his perspective from. You want to call me biased? At least I show you where I'm referencing. These people just say, hey, yeah, it's baseless. They give you no evidence to suggest it otherwise. And then when they do give you evidence, it reinforces someone's point where they say, yeah, this is how I interpret the facts. Because I'm saying the facts don't say what you think it says. And it just shows you the weakness of the Democratic Party, that they can't stand on their own. And I just finished railing on Kamala Harris on her I'm not going to say that, but the podcaster, Call Her Daddy podcast, right? And how she was just making a bunch of claims and no fact check, right? But this today, I got a video for day. After this video, I'm going to record the video of Tim Walz getting fact checked. And you're going to see the difference between how a conservative Republican fact check a Democrat versus how a Democrat fact check a Republican. But I digress.
FEMA administrator had to say about it. Take a look.
This level of misinformation creates this scenario where they won't even come to us. They won't even register. And I need people to register so they can get what they're eligible for through our programs.
Senator, what do you say to that criticism that Mr. Trump is confusing people at a very time when they need help the most?
Well, I don't think he's confusing anyone. I think the administration did get caught flat-footed here, and that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have proven to be overmatched by events again. If you hear from Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, who's very close to this, is monitoring it on the ground, Georgia's response, he said that the administration's response has been lackluster. I think there's an obvious difference between what happened in western North Carolina, northern Georgia, eastern Tennessee than the normal kind of hurricane impact we see. Most of the time, hurricanes are hitting on the coast, hitting by definition flat land. They can cause devastating damage. But
and as a Floridian, right? I live in Florida, born and raised in Florida, probably going to die in Florida. We got a storm coming from us right now, right? I'm working from home right now, so I can go help my wife and us get ready for this hurricane, because this one, it seems a little bit more serious than Helene was, for us anyway. And this is a concern of mine. I'm like, wow, I'm on my own. I'm assuming we're on our own if we get hit by this thing. That's as a Floridian, that's the perception I'm taking. It's just us. Hey, Floridians, it's just us, because we ain't gonna get no help from no Biden administration, no Kamala Harris, especially that we finished voting 19% for Ron DeSantis. You can't help, like, and this is the problem I have with liberals. They don't want you to assume like Democrats are being facetious or bad or evil with their intentions. Oh, it so happens that the red states are not getting help from FEMA. It's not because we mean to do that. Yeah, but you don't. But you do the same thing with Trump when it comes to abortion. Donald Trump exonerate Roe v. Wade, and they say, yeah, because it doesn't allow compromise. It doesn't give both sides of the argument a fair shake. And then you guys characterize that as no. He's trying to ban abortion. He's trying to ban it across the world. He wants to sign an abortion ban. But he's saying it with his words. That's not his intentions when he revoked Roe v. Wade. But y'all keep going into it. So this is why I'm saying I'm tired of the projection. Liberals, projection bias. Stop doing it, please. Because we need to argue on the evidence of the fact. If I interpret it a certain way, you have to acknowledge your interpretation. Okay, I can see why you can say that. If most of these states, I can see it. But we don't believe that's the case. That's the actual authentic argument. But trying to say those are baseless claims, those are false claims. Just because it's baseless doesn't mean it's false. It just means it's not proven yet. And this is why I keep getting, this is why conservatives like to troll Democrats when they go calling us conspiracy theory. Because conspiracy theories just means you have an assumption that is waiting to be proven false or true. And then when we get proven true, it gives more credibility to people trusting us. And this is why Democrats love censorship. Based on that misinformation, I just showed you a clip. Why does conservatives think that FEMA is being used for migrants? I just showed you the clip with Karine Jean-Pierre. 2022, she said this. If you look at the balance sheet for their budget 2023-2022, you see that they spent between those 2 years over $695 million on illegal migrants, or on migrants as they like to call them. And you don't think America's going to have a problem with that? You don't think conservatives not going to have a problem with that? Instead, you want to, I'm tired. I'm done with this. And I'm glad Tom Cotton is just shredding this narrative right now. And then Christian Walker wants to sit here and pretend that she's objective, that people should give her credibility, people should trust her, and you wonder why Americans don't trust the mainstream media, especially in America. I digress.
But within some reasonable period of time, the waters recede, linemen can come in, trucks can come in, bring supplies. If you look at the geography of where Helene did the most damage, it's in the mountains where you have small, narrow valleys. Even once the storm moved on and there's no more rain, oftentimes these places only have one way in and out. So that's a very different challenge than what you see on coastal areas. And I think the administration from the very beginning should have been deploying military assets necessary, specifically helicopters, to get in there. It took them days to do that. There's hundreds of military helicopters within flying distance of this area. That should have happened from the very beginning.
But Senator, just a couple of points there. The governors themselves has said that they are satisfied with the federal response. Brian Kemp on Monday said, we got what we needed. The Democratic governor of North Carolina said the state is grateful for the support. We know that North Carolina got $27 million to Western North Carolina specifically. There's no doubt that there are challenges in this recovery effort, but I'm asking you about the misinformation that the former president is spreading. Here's what the Charlotte Observer editorial board wrote. They wrote, quote, former President Donald Trump has politicized the situation at every turn, spreading falsehoods and conspiracies that fracture the community instead of bringing it together.
What if I just gave you a perspective that says, hey, I think that you could do a better job of handling the tragedy that happened in Helene, which Tom Cotton just finished explaining that, hey, you guys weren't prepared for it. You didn't understand the specifics of the location that was getting hit. Because you couldn't go to your default response. Oh, send stuff. Well, we can't quite send vehicles because it's in a mountain area and it's hard for our vehicles to navigate that. Once it became something that required more thinking than the immediate template response, you struggled. It took 7 days for you guys to respond to Helene. Trump criticizing that. Shame on you, Trump. You're making things worse. But what was that for George Bush when he failed to respond? In 3 days, it took him 3 days to respond to Hurricane Katrina. But yeah, and I was getting on his ass, okay? You and Obama. But all of a sudden, we're supposed to give kid gloves to Biden and Harris. These liberals, these Democrats think you have no credibility to question them. And it's this condescending attitude from the Democrats that really made sure I was never going to be a liberal. Never. Snobby, arrogant. Look at you, like, at least I'm humble enough to know that I could be wrong about something. Liberals sitting around and pretend that they're not wrong about nothing. Kristen Welker, in her same breath, just admit it could have been better. But Donald Trump criticizing that, oh, it's politicizing. You politicize abortion. You politicize a woman dying from an abortion pill she got from another state. And because George was like, we don't know what's wrong with her and was slow to respond, because I did my research on that. The mother is suing them for malpractice, not because of the abortion ban. Like, make it make sense. But you politicize that issue. You politicize that tragedy, but Trump is not allowed to do it. Rules for D and not for me is the Democratic platform. I digress.
Do you think Donald Trump should leave campaign politics out of disaster relief?
Well, no, Kristen, again, you have Governor Kemp who said that the response has been lacking. I understand the Democratic governor of North Carolina is going to praise Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in the middle of an election season. But the simple fact is we're more than a week on. We're still not conducting recovery operations. They're still engaged in rescue operations because Kamala Harris and Joe Biden were slow to answer the bell here. They were slow-footed and they were overmatched.
And back to the Trump politicizing point. Last time I checked, I thought Trump suspended his campaign in the area to help with the relief. Kamala Harris didn't even stop one dime, not one day. Biden's not even sure what's going on. As you saw from the intro, I played it. Gen Z's looking at this like, yo, I need help. And then the 750, you say it's not 750, then it's a starting point. But end of the day, she said it, and then you categorize that as misinformation. Like, make it make sense, bro. Like it seemed like any interpretation that you have that's negative about what the Democrats are doing, how they respond, on their approach, on their policy, it's misinformation. And you wonder why Democrats love censorship, because they don't like to be questioned. They don't want a space or a safe space for people to criticize them. That's the reality of censorship. Tell me I'm lying in the comment section.
By events. You even had the Secretary of Homeland Security saying there's not enough money left in the fund. So it is the case that the administration itself, the secretary who oversees FEMA, said there's not enough money left in the fund, and they have been spending billions of dollars for the last 4 years to move migrants from our border, to put them up in hotels and give them room service and maids. That's simply a fact.
But those funds are coming from a different federal fund, not from disaster relief, just to be clear. And what DHS Secretary Mayorkas said...
Look, this is my problem. Like, this is just my problem. She said, those are coming from a different fund. Okay, what kind of fund is that? It's still under FEMA, correct? If I'm not mistaken. Like, be specific. Don't just... This is the problem with the fact checks. The fact check only serves to cast doubt on the claims made by the other person. That's the only reason fact checks exist. Fact check, in my view, is supposed to be something where, you're lying about that. That fact does exist. That study does exist. If I say there's a study that shows that Black Americans on average is younger than white Americans, and I'm using that to explain why there's a wealth gap, you can't fact check me and be like, no, there's no correlation between age and income. I'm like, no, that's a lie. You're just trying to cast doubt on my fact. Fact check used to be like, let's make sure that fact actually exists that can help your argument. It does exist. Okay. That was what fact check used to mean. Now fact check means let's cast doubt on what you stated. Let's try to cast doubt on your opinion and make it seem like your fact or whatever you stated is wrong, completely wrong, when it's not. It's just, hey, look, I have evidence to support why I interpret or see the world that I see. This is the decline of media. And you wonder why people rather listen to people on YouTube, because we're more honest. You know, when you see my video, hey, Kenny's not a journalist. Kenny doesn't do this for a living. This is a hobby for Kenny. But can he show some interesting clips? Can he show me some videos? Can he give his insightful opinions on things? Oh, well, I think they're insightful. You could have a different opinion about them, depending on your political spectrum. But you know, Kenny's referencing something. We all see, like when I play these clips, me and you are seeing the same video. You're going to hear my interpretation and you're going to give your interpretation in the comment section. And I get feedback from it. And I get a feedback look. I get an understanding of what people are thinking. What are my audiences thinking about this stuff? Because I read all the comments, regardless if I reply to them or not. Right? But you think Christian Welker gets this feedback? No. And this is why it's allowed her to live in her bubble. Because I believe she lives in a bubble, especially as a journalist, where only 3.5% of journalists are registered Republicans. Democrats are more likely to block people of opposing political ideologies. That means liberals are more likely to put themselves in an echo chamber than conservatives, and she's going to sit here and try to tell you that she's neutral. Lies. I digress.
Is that it has the money it needs for now, but not necessarily through the end of the year for future hurricanes. So there is a discussion about more funding. You're right about.
See, I'm in Florida right now. I'm about to get hit by another one. I forgot the name of the storm already. It's coming for me now. Like I'm in Florida. Another hurricane about to hit, and she just admitted there ain't gonna be enough funds for that. Where did $2.5 billion go from FEMA? You said, Christian Welker, that it was another fund that was using to push migrants. Okay, then FEMA should have all the money it needs. Oh, it doesn't. So that means you were using some of the funds. But this is how they try to control your perception. They try to get you to focus on these little minute things that only all it serves is to cast doubt on your perception of reality, of what you observe. Don't believe your lying eyes is the job of the media.
About that. But look, Henry McMaster, the Republican governor of South Carolina, said federal assistance has been superb. Glenn Youngkin said he's incredibly appreciative of the rapid response. And again, Brian Kemp on Monday, at least in part, said we got what we need, while also saying, yes, there are some more things that we would like to see here in the state. My broader question to you, I think, is about this misinformation. Do you think this is a time to put falsehoods aside, like the idea that FEMA funds are being redirected to migrants, which is just not true?
Well, it is true that FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security have been spending billions of dollars on.
Does Christian Welker get a penalty for sprouting misinformation? There's evidence to suggest that that is the case, and you show no evidence to challenge that assumption whatsoever. All you're trying to do is cast doubt on it. That's the reality.
Migrants. Now, I understand some people say they're separate funds, but we just passed a short-term spending bill. It's very common for the administration to come and ask for permission to move money between funds, especially to prepare for emergencies. And second, I would note that this administration seems to have no problem finding money when they want to spend it on their priorities. When they need hundreds of billions of dollars to pay off student loans for graduate students in gender studies programs, they somehow find it. When it's trying to get helicopters to deliver food and water and cellular service and life-saving medicine into these mountain valleys, they somehow can't seem to find the money.
And again,
that happens to be Republican, right? And this is the argument that conservatives can interpret that. You can't, the framing is solid. Hey, we have evidence to suggest that this could be the case. You can't deny that that's not a possibility. And instead of showing evidence that gives the odds in your favor, you try to condemn it. Oh, how dare you ask such a question? How dare you question the benevolence of a Democrat? You've been doing things in your best interest this entire time. What makes you think you wouldn't do this? You wouldn't pass laws to secure people's elections and require voter ID. And when people say we should require voter ID because there's some evidence to suggest that in some states, illegals are voting in our elections, instead you want to call us a racist. Oh, black people can't have voting ID. I have voting ID. I'm employed. I drive a car. That requires what? ID, identification. But I can't do that for voting? Look how condescending you liberals are. You Democrats are. Any Democrat that believe a black person can't find or have a hard time finding a ID is a racist. Especially the black ones. The black Democrats who think that black people struggle. No, that's a minority. And even then they have voter ID. Because I know every poor black person I know, they got a cell phone, they got an iPhone. That's more expensive than getting an ID. So if they have that, I'm pretty sure they have an ID. But look at the racist assumptions from these Democrats. I'm tired of the crap, honestly. But that's it. I think Tom Cotton did a good job really challenging these narratives that they try to push onto the American people. And that's why I say American people, we can't trust the mainstream media. It's an ideologically captured institution. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Until they put process in place that checks their bias, that highlights the other side's point of view, you can't blindly just trust the information that they disseminate to you or the narratives they try to frame to you. But I digress. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you agree with Tom Cotton or do you agree with Kristen Welker? I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I appreciate you guys watching to the end of the video. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.